The Syrian civil war has been a defining conflict of the 21st century. For over a decade, the country has been ravaged by violence, displacement, and humanitarian suffering. The war, which began in 2011 as a peaceful uprising against the authoritarian rule of President Bashar al-Assad, quickly escalated into a complex and brutal conflict. Multiple factions, both domestic and international, became embroiled in the fighting, each pursuing their own agendas. After years of relentless bloodshed, the Syrian conflict took a dramatic turn in late 2024. In a stunning series of events, rebel forces, spearheaded by the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham (HTS) group, launched a lightning offensive that swept across northwestern Syria. This offensive, culminating in the fall of Damascus on December 8, 2024, marked the end of Assad's regime and sent shockwaves across the region and the world. The swift collapse of Assad's government, once considered an unlikely scenario, was the result of a confluence of factors. The Syrian army, weakened by years of war and plagued by internal divisions, proved unable to withstand the rebel onslaught. Moreover, Assad's key allies, including Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah, were distracted by other conflicts and unable to provide the same level of support they had in the past. The fall of Assad has ushered in a new chapter in the Syrian conflict, one fraught with both uncertainty and opportunity. As the country grapples with the legacy of Assad's rule and the challenges of rebuilding, the international community faces the daunting task of fostering stability and preventing further bloodshed. The road ahead will be long and arduous, but the Syrian people, who have endured so much, deserve a chance at a brighter future. To understand the recent turn of events in Syria, one must delve into the complex world of the Syrian opposition. Among the myriad of groups vying for power, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham (HTS) has emerged as a dominant force, particularly in the northwestern province of Idlib. HTS, which translates to the Organization for the Liberation of the Levant, has a complex and often controversial history. HTS traces its roots back to Jabhat al-Nusra, the Syrian branch of al-Qaeda. However, in recent years, the group has sought to distance itself from its jihadist past and rebrand itself as a more moderate force focused on toppling the Assad regime and establishing Islamic governance in Syria. This rebranding effort, while met with skepticism from some quarters, has allowed HTS to garner wider support among the Syrian population, particularly in areas outside of government control. Under the leadership of Abu Muhammad al-Golani, a shrewd and pragmatic figure, HTS has consolidated its control over Idlib, establishing a de facto mini-state. Golani has sought to portray HTS as a more effective and less extreme alternative to both the Assad regime and other rebel groups, some of which have been plagued by infighting and accusations of human rights abuses. HTS's effectiveness as a fighting force was on full display during the recent offensive. The group's fighters, battle-hardened and well-equipped, proved more than a match for the demoralized and depleted Syrian army. The speed and precision of the HTS-led advance took many by surprise, highlighting the group's growing military capabilities and its determination to reshape the Syrian conflict. The seeds of Assad's downfall were sown in the ruins of Aleppo, a city that has come to symbolize the brutality and devastation of the Syrian civil war. Once a bustling economic hub, Aleppo was transformed into a battleground in 2012 as rebel forces, including HTS, launched an offensive to wrest control of the city from the Syrian government. The Battle of Aleppo, which raged for over 4 years, was one of the longest and bloodiest sieges in modern history. The city was subjected to relentless bombardment by Syrian and Russian forces, resulting in widespread destruction and thousands of civilian casualties. The siege of Aleppo became a rallying cry for the Syrian opposition and their international backers who accused the Assad regime of war crimes. In December 2016, after months of intense fighting, the Syrian government, backed by Russian air power, recaptured the entirety of Aleppo. The rebel defeat in Aleppo was a major turning point in the war, allowing the Assad regime to regain the upper hand and consolidate its control over much of the country. However, the rebel capture of Aleppo in late 2024, in a stunning reversal of fortune, marked a significant turning point in the war. The offensive, codenamed Deterrence of Aggression was meticulously planned and executed by HTS and its allies. The rebels exploited the Syrian army's weaknesses, bypassing heavily fortified positions and targeting key infrastructure and supply lines. The fall of Aleppo, once unthinkable, sent shockwaves through the Syrian government and its allies. It demonstrated the resilience and determination of the opposition, particularly HTS, and exposed the vulnerabilities of Assad's regime. The capture of Aleppo provided a major morale boost to the rebel cause and paved the way for the final assault on Damascus. No country has played a more influential role in the Syrian conflict than Turkey. Since the early days of the uprising, Turkey has provided sanctuary to millions of Syrian refugees and has been a staunch supporter of the Syrian opposition. However, Turkey's involvement in Syria is driven by a complex web of strategic interests, regional ambitions, and domestic political consideration. Turkey's primary objective in Syria is to prevent the establishment of an autonomous Kurdish entity along its southern border. Ankara views the Syrian Kurdish People's Protection Units, YPG, which have been a key ally of the United States in the fight against ISIS, as an extension of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, a group that has waged a decades-long insurgency against the Turkish state. To counter the YPG, Turkey has provided support to a variety of Syrian rebel groups, including HTS. This support has included weapons, training, and logistical assistance. While Turkey officially designates HTS as a terrorist organization, it has turned a blind eye to the group's activities in Idlib, viewing HTS as a bulwark against both the Assad regime and the YPG. Turkey's calculated gamble in Syria has paid off, at least in the short term. The fall of Assad, while not directly orchestrated by Ankara, serves Turkey's interests by removing a hostile regime from power and weakening the YPG. However, Turkey's intervention in Syria has also come at a cost, exacerbating regional tensions and fueling instability along its southern border. Section 5. The crumbling regime, Assad's weakening grip. The recent collapse of Bashar al-Assad's regime, once considered an unlikely prospect, can be attributed to a multitude of factors that gradually eroded its power and legitimacy. While the Syrian civil war has been characterized by shifting alliances and external interventions, the internal dynamics of the Assad regime played a crucial role in its eventual downfall. One of the most significant factors contributing to the regime's decline was the Syrian army's gradual weakening. Years of relentless fighting, coupled with defections, casualties, and a decline in morale had taken a heavy toll on the armed forces. The Syrian army, once considered one of the most formidable in the region, was a shadow of its former self by 2024, plagued by corruption, poor leadership, and a lack of resources. Moreover, the Assad regime's reliance on sectarian militias and foreign fighters, while initially bolstering its military capabilities, ultimately proved counterproductive. These militias, often accused of human rights abuses and operating with impunity, alienated large segments of the Syrian population and fueled sectarian tensions. The presence of foreign fighters, particularly from Iran, Iraq, and Lebanon, further inflamed the conflict and undermined the regime's legitimacy. Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah have played pivotal roles in the Syrian conflict. Russia's military intervention in 2015 marked a turning point, bolstering the Assad regime. Iran, through its Revolutionary Guard and allied militias, has provided significant ground support. Hezbollah, the Lebanese militant group, has also been deeply involved, fighting alongside Syrian government forces. These alliances have reshaped the dynamics of the conflict, creating a complex web of regional interests and power struggles. Israel's role in the Syrian conflict has been multifaceted. While officially neutral, Israel has conducted airstrikes targeting Iranian and Hezbollah positions in Syria, aiming to curb their influence. The future of Lebanon is closely tied to the outcome of the Syrian war. Hezbollah's involvement in Syria has had significant repercussions for Lebanese politics and security. As the conflict evolves, the stability of Lebanon remains a critical concern for the region. Imagining a post-Assad Syria is challenging given the current complexities. The fall of Assad could lead to a power vacuum, potentially resulting in further chaos and fragmentation. Various opposition groups, Kurdish forces and extremist factions all vie for control. The international community faces the daunting task of supporting a peaceful transition, rebuilding the nation and addressing the humanitarian crisis. The path to a stable and unified Syria remains uncertain. As the Syrian conflict enters a new chapter, the focus shifts towards reconstruction and reconciliation. The international community must play a vital role in providing aid and facilitating dialogue among warring factions. The resilience of the Syrian people, despite years of hardship, offers a glimmer of hope. The journey to peace and stability is long and arduous, but with concerted efforts, a new beginning for Syria is possible.